Hello and welcome to this comprehensive presentation on the Global Ranking System, or CRS, which is at the heart of Canada's Express Entry System. Today, I'm going to guide you through all the necessary steps to understand this point system and, above all, to optimize your profile. Don't forget to subscribe to our next videos on Canadian immigration. Together we'll look at what the CRS is, how it works, how you can calculate your points, and what strategies you can adopt to improve your score. This slideshow is aimed at anyone wishing to immigrate to Canada as a skilled worker. So take notes, ask questions if you can, and above all, stay to the end so you don't miss anything. What is Express Entry? Before talking about points, it's essential to understand the general framework. Express Entry is the system set up by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, to manage economic immigration applications. It is not a program but an electronic selection tool that brings together three major federal programs: the Skilled Worker Program, the Skilled Trades Program, and the Canadian Experience Class. The principle is simple. You create an online profile, you get a score, and if your score is good enough, you receive an invitation to apply for permanent residency. It's a competition between profiles. Why calculate your points? Now you understand that in Express Entry, the SCG is your position in the pool. It's your score that determines whether or not you'll be invited. The Canadian authorities hold regular draws. Only those with a score above the threshold receive an invitation. So calculating your score not only helps you to see where you stand, but also to identify areas for improvement. A redone language test, an additional EDE, a provincial nomination, all of these can change your future. That's why, even before creating an Express Entry profile, you need to know where you stand. To provide you with a clear overview, this presentation is divided into several parts. We'll start with the basics: your age, education, official languages, and experience. Then we'll look at the extra points, the famous bonuses that sometimes make all the difference. Then we'll move on to the strategic combinations, the transferability points, followed by case studies and concrete examples. Finally, I'll give you personalized advice on how to improve your score, as well as useful resources. The aim is that by the end of this presentation, you'll know exactly what to do to improve your chances of being invited. Here's a detailed list of the sections we'll be covering. First, Part A, which deals with human capital. Then Part B, which presents the transferability of skills. We'll continue with Part C, where we'll look at concrete calculations and case studies. In Part D, we'll look at how to improve your score. And to conclude, you'll have access to official tools, simulators, and a question and answer session. Each part is designed to help you better understand your profile and act where it's most effective. Defining the CRS. Let's get to the heart of the matter, the CRS, or Global Ranking System. It's a 1,200-point grid that evaluates candidates according to their personal, professional, and family characteristics. There are two main categories of points: 600 points for basic factors, also known as human capital, and 600 points for additional points, also known as bonuses. Your objective is not to earn 200 points, but to earn enough to be above the invitation threshold. And that's exactly what we'll be looking at in the next few slides. Human capital, 4 factors. Human capital is the foundation of your profile. It rests on 4 pillars: age, level of education, language skills, and work experience in Canada. These 4 factors are the ones you control, the ones you can improve with a little preparation and strategy. They make up the bulk of your basic score. In a moment, we'll break down each of these elements one by one. A big question that comes up a lot: should I declare my spouse or common law partner in my application? The answer depends on your strategy. If you apply alone, you can earn up to 500 base points. With a spouse, the total is limited to 460 points for the principal applicant, but the spouse can contribute up to 40 additional points. So compare the two profiles and designate the one with the most potential as the main applicant. In addition to the basic points, you can earn some very important bonuses. The most important, a provincial designation gives you 600 points at once. But you can also get points for a validated job offer, a Canadian diploma, your level of French, or the presence of a sibling in Canada. These bonuses are often decisive, especially for those with an average profile. We'll go into them in more detail later. Now it's important to understand how the score influences your selection. Every 2 to 3 weeks, the government conducts express entry draws. Only applicants with a score above the announced threshold receive an invitation to apply, ITA. This threshold varies according to the category of the draw. Sometimes it's for Canadian experience class applicants, sometimes for francophones or skilled workers. That's why your goal isn't just to qualify, it's to be competitive. The more points you have, the better your chances. Here are 2 simple examples to illustrate the importance of strategy. Take Marie, single, with a master's degree, CLB 9 in French, 1 year Canadian experience, 481 points. Then take Paul, same profile, but married to a partner who speaks neither English nor French. He scores only 443 points. Why? Because 40 points are transferred to the spouse, who doesn't contribute any points. So when you're a couple, you absolutely must compare the 2 profiles and choose your principal applicant accordingly. The CRS is not set in stone. It evolves according to your new situation. Have you taken a new language test, obtained a diploma, gained experience? You can update your express entry profile at any time. But beware, time is on your side too. With each anniversary, you potentially lose age points. So be proactive. Don't wait for a miracle. Work actively to improve your profile and take advantage of every change. While the CRS is essential, it's not everything. Having a good score doesn't mean you'll automatically be invited or that your application will be accepted. The CRS is not a substitute for program eligibility criteria, safety or health checks, nor does it take into account your actual intentions to live in a province. Use the CRS as a strategic tool, but don't base your entire approach solely on this figure. To summarize this first section, you've seen that the CRS is based on 2 major blocks, base points and extra points. You now know that the score evolves, that it can be optimized, and that it's strategic to aim for the right thresholds. In the next section, we'll go into detail about each criterion one by one: age, education, language, experience. You'll be able to see how to position yourself and which levers to activate to gain points. This is where you start to build your personal strategy. Let's move on to Part A, which focuses on the human capital factors that influence your CRS score. These include age, education, language skills, and work experience. Let's talk about the age factor. It's one of the simplest, but also one of the most important. Candidates between the ages of 20 and 29 are awarded maximum points. From age 30 onwards, points decrease each year. At 45, it's 0 points. So if you're still young, don't delay. And if you're over 30, you'll have to compensate for the loss of points with other elements of your profile. Here's the exact scale. You can see here that a 29-year-old candidate has 110 points if he's single, 100 if he's married. At 35, this drops to 77 or 70 points. At 45, nothing. So every year counts. Above all, the presence of a spouse also has an influence on the number of points you can obtain in this category. Conclusion on age. If you're in your 20s, you're in the ideal zone. That's where you get the most points without any extra effort. But just because you're over 30 doesn't mean it's over. You can always improve your language score, your studies, or your Canadian experience to compensate. The important thing is not to wait too long before taking the plunge. Second factor, education. If your degree is Canadian, no problem. But if you studied abroad, you'll need to do an ECA, or Educational Credential Assessment. This proves that your diploma is equivalent to a Canadian one. Without it, no points will be awarded for your studies. And the higher your level of study, the more points you earn. Take a good look at this chart. A high school diploma gives you just 30 points, but a master's degree up to 135 points, and a doctorate up to 150 points. So if you have the opportunity to have your diplomas recognized, it's a powerful lever. And if you can complete your training in Canada, you can accumulate points for Canadian studies and additional bonuses. This slide helps you better understand what IRCC considers a post-secondary diploma. It can be a 1-year diploma, a 2-year diploma, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or even a double degree. What you need to remember is that the more advanced the degree, the more points it earns. A 2-year diploma is not worth as much as a Canadian bachelor's degree or a license obtained outside Canada. And if you have more than one diploma, it may be advantageous to have them all evaluated in your ECA. Sometimes, 2 separate diplomas can give you more points than a single high-level diploma. If you've studied outside Canada, you'll need to do a diploma evaluation. This is an essential step if you want to earn points for your studies. The process is simple but a little lengthy. You choose a recognized organization, such as WES, ICAS, or ICAS, send in your translated documents, pay the fee, and wait for the result. The assessment takes between 6 and 12 weeks. It is valid for 5 years. Not taking the assessment means losing dozens of potential points. So if you haven't done it yet, make it a priority. Let's move on to a decisive criterion. Language. You need to prove your language skills in English or French through officially recognized tests. For English, IELTS or CEL-PIP. For French, the TEF or TCF Canada. These tests evaluate your abilities in 4 areas: comprehension and expression, oral and written. Your results will be converted into CLB or NCLC levels. The higher your level, the more points you earn, and more importantly, the more hidden bonuses you activate in the CRS. Here's how points are distributed according to your language level. From CLB 7 onwards, you get points. But it's at CLB 9 that you start to increase your score tenfold. Each skill, oral, written, comprehension, earns points individually. So if just one falls below the threshold, you lose the whole bonus and have to retake the whole test. This just goes to show that every detail counts. It often pays to retake a language test just to gain 10 or 20 points. These few points can take you past the threshold of a draw. Now, if you haven't yet achieved a good language score, don't panic. There are plenty of ways to make progress: intensive courses, online practice, mock tests. The best thing is to focus on your weak points. Make a diagnosis, then work specifically on written expression or listening or grammar. Mobile applications and training websites can help. And above all, retake the test if you're close to level 9. It can make all the difference between a rejected profile and a selected one. Let's take a concrete example. 2 candidates of the same age, same education, same experience, but one has a CLB 7, the other a CLB 9. The result? More than 28 points difference on language alone. And at CLB 9 and above, the candidate can also activate transferability bonuses, which give up to 50 extra points. So in reality, this small difference in language level can generate up to 78 points in total. That's a lot. So if you have a good level, validate it with a good test, and if you're close to the threshold, prepare yourself thoroughly. Canadian experience is highly valued in the CRS. Why? Because it shows that you've already proven your ability to work in Canada in a local environment. But only certain conditions apply. The job must be full-time or equivalent, legal, and correspond to tier levels 0 to 3 of the National Occupational Classification, NOC. Above all, you need 1 full year, or 1,560 hours. Even if you have foreign experience, it is not valued here. Only Canadian experience counts in this section. For your experience to be taken into account, you need to comply with several rules. First, the position must be qualified under the tier system. Second, you must have a valid permit or legal status. Third, self-employment is not recognized in this section, so if you've worked as a freelancer, it won't be counted here. Finally, if you've worked part-time, you'll need to convert your hours into full-time equivalents. This is often where mistakes are made, so be precise and rigorous in your calculations. Here are the points you can earn depending on the length of your Canadian experience. Year equals 35 to 40 points. Years equals up to 53 points. And so on, up to 80 points for 5 years or more. As with other criteria, the presence of a spouse influences the total obtained. If you're in your first year of work, set yourself the goal of accumulating at least 12 months, as this is the minimum threshold for entry into the Canadian Experience Class, CEC. And if you have several years, you maximize your chances of being selected quickly. Here are 3 typical profiles to illustrate. Nadia, who has only foreign experience, 0 points in this category. John, who has 1 year experience in Quebec after his studies, 40 points. And Amina, who has 3 years experience plus a CLB 9, 64 points, plus 50 transferability points. You can see here the effect of Canadian experience combined with language. This shows that even if you're still a student or recent graduate, every year of experience works in your favor and can turn an average profile into a winning one. Part B focuses on the bonus and transferability of skills, highlighting how strategic combinations can improve your CRS score. Let's turn now to an often misunderstood aspect of the CRS, the transferability of skills. Here, the idea is to value the winning combinations between certain skills. We no longer look at each criterion in isolation, but rather at how they reinforce each other. For example, having a good degree is great, but having a good degree and a very good level of language skills is even better. It's this logic of synergy that can earn you up to 100 extra points. So this is a strategic section, especially for candidates who want to compensate for a weakness elsewhere. Here's the first combination: education plus language. If you have a post-secondary diploma and earn a CLB 9 or higher in an official language, you can earn up to 50 transferability points. This bonus is activated only if your language level is high, and the longer your studies, the greater the bonus. So if you have a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate degree and a good language score, you've got a gold mine of points here to exploit. And if you're still below CLB 9, aim for that level now. Second combination, your education plus your Canadian work experience. Once again, post-secondary education is the basis. But this time, it's the length and quality of your work experience that counts, in Canada. The more experience you have combined with solid studies, the more points you earn. For example, a university degree plus 3 years experience in Canada equals 50 bonus points. So if you've already worked for several years in your field in Canada, make it a strength combined with your studies. Third possible combination, very good language skills plus qualified foreign experience. This is mainly for those who haven't yet set foot in Canada, but want to optimize their profile from abroad. If you have at least 3 years experience in your home country and score CLB 9 or above, you can unlock up to 50 points here. It's an encouraging message. Even without Canadian experience, you can be very competitive if you work on your language skills. Here's a very interesting and often underestimated combination: the cumulative effect of foreign experience and Canadian work experience. In the CGS point system, if you have at least 1 year of qualified Canadian work experience combined with at least 3 years of foreign experience, you can earn up to 50 additional transferability points. Why is this combination so powerful? Because it shows IRCC that you have relevant international experience and that you've already proven your ability to integrate into the Canadian market. It's proof of resilience, adaptability, and professional continuity, all highly sought-after qualities. This means that if you have worked for several years in your country of origin and are now in Canada with a work permit, you have an excellent opportunity to increase your score. I strongly recommend that you document your foreign experience in detail: letters of recommendation, payslips, contracts, as these can earn you key points in the express entry selection process. Additional points can be earned through strategic combinations of skills, improving your SCG score and enhancing your profile for opportunities in Canada. Let's move on to the CRS bonus points. You can earn up to 600 extra points, which can double your score. These points aren't given to everyone. You have to meet certain conditions. But if you tick one or two boxes in this list, like a provincial designation, a Canadian diploma, or a good command of French, you can turn an average profile into an unbeatable one. This is where strategy really comes into play. Here's the most powerful bonus of all, a provincial nomination. If a province selects you via a provincial nominee program, you get 600 points in one go. And that's practically a guaranteed invitation. This can turn a score of 420 into 1,020 points, well above any draw threshold. To get there, you need to identify the provinces that are recruiting, meet their criteria, and often submit an application separate from your express entry profile. A valid job offer can earn you points. But beware, since March 2025 this bonus has been reduced, which means it's less decisive than before. The offer must be part of the immigration program requirements, full-time, permanent, in a skilled occupation, and validated by a Labor Market Impact Assessment, LMIA, with some exceptions. If you have such an offer, congratulations, it's an advantage. But if you don't bet everything on it. There are other, more accessible strategies. If you have studied in Canada, you are entitled to an automatic bonus. Points for a 1-2-year program and 30 points for a degree of 3 years or more, a master's degree or a doctorate. This bonus is in addition to the study points already recorded in the CRS. This means that international students in Canada have a double advantage. They earn points for their degree and a bonus on top of that. It's an excellent medium-term strategy if you're prepared to invest in local training. A good level of French can earn you up to 50 extra points. Here's how it works. If you have a CLB 7 or higher in French, you get 25 points. If you also have a basic level of English, CLB 5 or higher, this bonus rises to 50 points. It's an excellent lever for French speakers abroad. And even if your first language is English, learning French can propel you to the top of the ranking. Finally, you can earn 15 points if you have a brother or sister who is a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, aged 18 or over, and living in Canada. This also includes relationships by adoption, marriage, or common law union. It's a small bonus, but it can tip the balance. Remember to declare it in your profile, along with the necessary supporting documents. Many applicants forget this detail, even though it can be a simple and free opportunity to add a few points to your total. Now let's explore the final calculation and case studies to understand how these points combine to form your total score. Let's quickly recap how the overall score is calculated. First, you have the base points, up to 600 points, which include age, education, official languages, Canadian work experience, and sometimes spousal points. Then you can add up to 600 additional points. These include provincial designations, validated job offers, Canadian diplomas, French language proficiency, and family ties. So the theoretical total is 1,200 points. But in practice, reaching this score is not necessary. What counts is having more than the threshold of the last draw, and that's what we'll see together in the next examples. This is the profile of Mark, 28 years old, single, with a foreign master's degree validated by ECA. He has a CLB 9 in English and 1 year of Canadian experience. He has no spouse and no additional points. Total 463 points. This is a good score, but it's just below the thresholds for some draws. This shows that a good profile isn't always enough, and that it's often necessary to add a complementary strategy. Aim for a provincial program, further improve the language test, or learn French to unlock additional bonuses. Meet Fatou, 33, married. She has a bachelor's degree with ECA, a CLB 9 in French, 2 years of Canadian experience, and her spouse brings 10 points. Total, 431 points. This score is below the average threshold for general draws. Fatu has two options. Either continue her studies in Canada to earn a Canadian degree and unlock a bonus, or aim for a provincial designation, which would boost her score to over 1,000 points. This shows the importance of the medium-term plan, especially for couples. Meet Ahmed, 35, married with children. He has an initial score of 417 points, which isn't enough for an invitation. But he receives a provincial designation from Manitoba, which gives him an additional 600 points. The result? 1,017 points and an almost guaranteed invitation. This case shows that provincial nominee programs, PNP, are an excellent solution for those whose profile is not yet strong enough for the general draws. It's a highly effective strategy, but one that requires initiative, intelligence, and sometimes a separate provincial file. Here are some concrete ideas for improving your score. First, the most accessible. Retake a language test to aim for a CLB 9 or higher. This is often what unlocks the most points. Next, consider taking an ECA for your foreign diplomas if you haven't already done so. If you're in Canada, get a local diploma or accumulate at least 1 year of Canadian experience. Check your family ties too. A sibling in Canada can give you 15 points. And of course, keep an eye on the provincial programs open to your profile. Every action you take can significantly boost your score. Here are a few common mistakes to avoid. First, forget to have your diploma evaluated. Without an ECA, you won't get any points for your studies. Second, misidentifying your no-C code can result in your experience being rejected. Third mistake, neglecting the language test, or not taking it again even when you're close to the next level. Another pitfall, failing to update your profile after obtaining a new diploma or promotion. Finally, some people ignore provincial programs, even though they are often the key to success. A little carelessness can cost you the opportunity of an invitation. To help you, the Canadian government offers an online CRS simulator. It's a free tool, available on the official Canada.ca website in the Express Entry section. You enter your data and get a very precise estimate of your score. You can even test several scenarios. If you improve your English, if you add a diploma, if you get a provincial nomination. It's an essential tool before creating your profile because it allows you to build a truly personalized strategy. I strongly recommend that you use it and update it regularly. Thank you for this comprehensive presentation on the Global Ranking System, CRS, in Express Entry. I hope you now have a clear understanding of how the points system works, and more importantly, how to optimize your profile to maximize your chances of receiving an invitation to apply for permanent residency in Canada. Si vous avez trouvé cette vidéo utile, je vous invite à laisser un pouce bleu pour soutenir le contenu et à vous abonner à la chaîne en cliquant sur le bouton juste en dessous. Cela me permet de continuer à vous offrir des vidéos claires, à jour et adaptées à vos projets d'immigration. Vous pouvez aussi activer la cloche pour recevoir une notification dès qu'un nouveau contenu est publié, notamment sur les tirages Entrée Express, les programmes des provinces, les nouveautés IRCC et bien plus encore. Merci encore pour votre confiance et je vous dis à très bientôt sur la chaîne. Bon succès dans votre projet d'immigration au Canada.